Are you related to Luda?
No, so there was a crossroads where we were both invited to an Illuminati thing. And
a famous comedian just said something on a podcast that could end a rapper's career. He didn't name names at first. But when people figured out who he was talking about, the entire internet lost it. Two men. One choice years ago. One said yes to Hollywood. One said no. And now one of them is paying the price for it. But what actually happened in that room has been hidden for more than 20 years. Until now. Here's the story everyone's talking about, and what it reveals about how fame really works. Katt Williams didn't plan to drop a bomb that day. He was just supposed to talk comedy. He appeared on a major podcast with millions of listeners. For the first hour, everything seemed normal. He told stories. He made jokes about the industry. But then something shifted. He started talking about opportunity. About how Hollywood works behind closed doors. About agreements that nobody talks about. Then he mentioned a name. Ludacris. Not as a friend. Not as a rival. But as proof of something much bigger. At that moment, the entire tone changed. The host leaned forward. The audience understood they were about to hear something they weren't supposed to know. What Katt said next would spread across the entire internet in hours. According to Katt, something happened many years ago. Both he and Ludacris were offered the same major opportunity. Not just any opportunity. The kind that changes lives. The kind that turns nobodies into superstars. Big money. Major film roles. Hollywood contracts worth tens of millions. But it came with conditions. Conditions that apparently weren't optional. Katt's story was simple. One person agreed to those conditions. One person refused. He walked out of that room and never looked back. The other person. He signed whatever they put in front of him. After that choice, their careers split in completely different directions. One went to Hollywood. One stayed in comedy. And now, one of them was about to wish he'd made the opposite choice. Ludacris didn't start as an actor. He was a rapper. One of the biggest rappers in the world. His albums went platinum. Millions of copies sold. Grammy Awards. Respect from the entire industry. But around 2003, something changed. He moved into film. His first major role was in a street racing movie. A blockbuster franchise that would eventually make billions of dollars. He kept appearing in sequels. One after another. Each one more successful than the last. Over 20 years, he became one of the few rappers who actually made it in Hollywood. He didn't just survive. He thrived. He became wealthy beyond what most musicians ever achieve. He diversified into business. Built an empire. But according to Katt, none of that success was coincidence. Katt chose a different path entirely. He stayed in comedy. Stand-up stages. Tours across America. He became famous for saying things nobody else would say. For calling out the industry. For speaking truth. He won awards. He had fans who loved him because he wasn't afraid. But he never became a movie star. He never got the franchise deal. He never made the kind of money Ludacris made. Katt always blamed the system for that. But maybe, according to his own story, he had a choice to make in that room years ago. He chose to walk away. He chose to keep his freedom instead of taking the money. That choice would haunt him for decades. When the podcast clip started spreading, the internet didn't know what to do with the information. Within hours, the story was everywhere. TikTok. Twitter. YouTube. Reddit. People were talking about it simultaneously across every platform. The first wave of response was confusion. What was Katt actually saying? Was he accusing Ludacris of something? Was he just telling a story? Was it a metaphor? The second wave was speculation. People started theorizing about what the conditions might have been. What kind of agreement would a major studio require? What would be so serious that refusing it meant sacrificing your career? The third wave was assumption. Millions of people decided what Katt meant, even though he never fully explained it. They created their own ending to his story. Days passed. The story kept growing. Everyone was waiting for Ludacris to say something. To deny it. To explain himself. To fight back. Instead, he posted a brief video on Instagram. He was sitting in a car. He said one phrase repeatedly. God is good. That was it. No explanation. No denial. No engagement with what Katt had said. Some people saw it as wisdom. Refusing to participate in drama. Staying above it. But others saw it differently. They saw silence as an admission. Evasion as guilt. The internet had already made up its mind. And Ludacris's brief video seemed to confirm what millions of people already believed. If Katt's story was true, it meant something massive. It meant Hollywood wasn't a meritocracy. It meant talent alone didn't get you to the top. It meant there were people in power making deals in secret rooms, deciding who would become famous and who wouldn't. It meant Ludacris's entire career might have been built on a choice made decades ago. A choice that tied him to something he couldn't talk about. Something he couldn't escape. A contract. An agreement. An obligation. It also meant Katt saw this happening and chose to stay independent. To keep his integrity. To never sign whatever piece of paper they wanted him to sign. But it came at a cost. The cost of never reaching the heights Ludacris reached. Katt didn't stop with Ludacris. Throughout the podcast, he suggested this wasn't unique. It was a pattern. A system. Multiple artists have faced similar crossroads, according to him. Some accepted. Some refused. The ones who accepted got the deals. The ones who refused faded into obscurity or took longer, harder paths. He suggested hip-hop was particularly affected by this. Young rappers with dreams of stardom are constantly presented with these kinds of choices. Record labels. Management companies. Studio executives. They all have power. They all have leverage. And apparently, they all use it. The implication was clear. Fame isn't random. Success isn't lucky. It's controlled. And control requires agreements. Conditions. Secrets. Everything changed depending on whether you were willing to sign. Here's what nobody really knows. What were the actual conditions? What did the agreement say? Why would someone agree to it? What would refusing cost you? Why did Katt wait 20 years to say anything? If this was real, why not speak out sooner? Why now? What does Ludacris actually think about all this? Is he angry? Is he embarrassed? Does he regret signing whatever he signed? And most importantly, is any of this actually true? Or is it just a story? A metaphor? A way for Katt to explain why his career went differently than Ludacris's? The internet has theories. But nobody actually knows. What's certain is this. One podcast interview made millions of people question how Hollywood really works. It made them wonder if their favorite celebrities made their own choices or if those choices were made for them. It started conversations about power, control, secrets. And somewhere, in meetings across Los Angeles, people are probably having conversations about what Katt revealed. About whether anyone else will speak up. About what might come out next. Because if this story is real, Katt isn't the only one who knows. There are other people in other rooms. And they're watching to see what happens next.